going on, everybody? It's Simon Says Crypto, and I'm back with another special guest for you. Today, I have Matthew. He's from the Founders Group on the show today. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Simon. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you, too. Just a little backstory. Matthew and I are from the same Founders Group that was started by Bitcoin Ben, and we actually met in an extension of that group called the Weekly Zoomers. And we're kind of like-minded individuals. We both love cryptos, but we're both also into how can cryptos benefit us long-term, and how do we integrate that into our lives? Would you agree with that, Matthew?
Yeah. So I think a lot of the founders with Bitcoin Ben are looking into being entrepreneurs and basically just helping people. I know when I first got in, I had nobody. I had no friends, no coworkers, no family that knew how to do anything in crypto, and you just felt lost out there. I lost money pretty much every way that you could, for getting private keys, not understanding different chains that, Ethereum isn't the same as Litecoin, things like that. And so a lot of us are looking to just help people understand, hey, not that we're going to hold your hand, but this is how it works. Let me explain it a little bit and get some kind of one-on-one. But I kind of wanted to take it a step further and look into, asset protection, because if the cryptos really go the way that I feel they're going to, and the world's really moving into technology and the Web 3.0, and people are going to wake up one day and they're going to maybe have 6-7 figures in their account, and they're going to need to know how to protect that, how to set up structures. We've all heard of people that have won the lottery and 3-4 years later they're broke, and it's because they don't know how to protect their wealth, and so I really wanted to look into that, being able to help people learn how LLCs work or trusts, learn how to structure different assets, looking into basically, protecting your wealth and being able to pass it on to future generations, and not just letting the old, tax man come in and take you for everything you got, and so a lot of us, like I said, are getting into helping people just learn how to get into cryptos, how to buy it, how to set up wallets, exchange accounts, things like that. But I wanted to take a step further that, okay, now you got it under your belt, you've made a little bit of, profit. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to take profit? Do you want to just let it ride? Do you want to move it into something else? Do you want to structure it? Do you want to buy different assets with it? Diversify your portfolio a little bit, and then just try to get people thinking about into that mindset. And so, that's, I think, and you and I, we follow some of the same people. John J. Singleton is probably one of my favorites.
Definitely.
He's taught me a lot. And so, that's basically, I just want to help people. I'm not necessarily going to set things up or do things for them, but, just getting them in the right state of mind and understanding, thinking the way, wealthy people think, because they really do see things differently. They think differently. And if we don't get in that mindset, man, we're not going to be able to protect that wealth and move it going forward with, our kids, grandkids, etc. So,
you talk about the mindset of the rich, but and how it is a different mindset, and that's very true. Myself, I'd say a personal experience with that. Not that I've been rich before, but I have, I've had little bouts where I've had a lot of money in my possession, more than I have ever had in my entire life at one time. And during that time that I had that money, I wanted to protect it, right? I wanted to, but I didn't know how. And not just having the structure like you're talking about, the asset protections and getting the mindset. That mindset is totally different. I totally defaulted to my normal mindset. Hey, I have money. Hey, I want that shiny new thing. Let's go get it. And some of those things weren't bad things at all. Kind of built up my food storage, first aid kits, things like that. But still, some of that I probably could have said, no, I think that's a good idea, but we don't need it today. Let's go get more assets, so then we can totally get, all the first aid and all the food that we need, and et cetera, right? So that's the mindset that you're talking about, is okay. Now that you have this one shiny golden egg, don't go spend it on just your needs yet. Your head's in the right space. Yes, we need stuff, but we need more assets so we can get our needs like this, and not have it diminish the assets
Yeah,
that we have.
exactly. Yeah. And so that, that's like you said, the mindset. Just because you have something that you own go up in value, whether it be a stock, a bond, an equity, a 401k plan, and now cryptos. Then you have other assets. So you have precious metals, you have futures contracts, you have assets as far as real estate, you have commercial properties, you have businesses that you could maybe invest in. So there's so many different things. So what I would want to tell somebody, or things that I want to get them thinking about is like, okay, you got X amount of money here, and you're like, oh man, I want to pay off my house. It's probably going to be the biggest debt anyone would ever have is their
Sure.
mortgage.
Sure.
Well, some of the most tax you're ever going to pay, and something that advisor would probably tell you, is paying off personal debt is not one of the worst things you can do, but you're going to get taxed the hardest, and you're going to, basically you're going to lose out on a lot of those gains just because paying it off. So something that like Robert Kiyosaki talks about, if I want to go buy something, I want to offset that with a residual income, a passive income. So his example was a Ferrari. If I want to go buy a Ferrari and the payment's $3,000 a month, I'm going to go buy a business, or I'm going to go buy a rental property. I'm going to go invest it into something that's bringing me in $3,000 a month plus. So now that payment is offset. So basically, you got a payment, but it's offset. So technically you don't have a payment. So in the case of like somebody's house, okay, well, I owe X amount on my house. Instead of just paying that off, why not go buy another house with an LLC? Now you have an asset that you own, that the LLC owns. Now you can get tenants in there. Okay, then you got rent, and that rent that you'll get will pay your house off. So now you technically don't have a house payment, but you also own another asset. You own a piece of real estate now. And if it was basically the same amount as your house, you should be able to get close to the same amount of rent, right? But now you have an asset that if you ever need to liquidate, if you ever needed to borrow against, when you build up some equity in it. So things like that, I wouldn't have ever thought about. But going down this path and going down the trying to get my mindset in the right place, that's kind of, it makes sense to me. Okay, why would I go sell this and put it into an account and then pay off my mortgage, and now I have a house paid off? Great, but what if I could go buy an asset with the same amount of money, and now I have money coming in every month from that
Right.
Now I have something that if I needed to, God forbid, sell, or if I needed to build some equity out of it, or if I wanted to leave it to my children or whatever, now I have another way of money coming in. And once the house is paid off, my house is paid off, now I have net positive cash flow coming in every month. And so, just little things like that, you start thinking about everything a little bit differently, and it starts kind of making sense. And that's kind of the mindset. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. This took a couple years to really get into and start thinking about that way. But hopefully I've been able to consolidate it down from hours and hours of YouTube video into I can talk with people and, say, try to think about things a little bit differently. Try to, let's think about it this way. Does that make sense to you? And then, we can go from there. So
Exactly. Getting into the mindset, I would say, is at least from my experience, it was a challenge at first. It was a real challenge. Okay, I didn't know what an asset was. Like, I had to figure that out. And there's a lot of people that don't, like, well, what do you mean there's an asset? What's an asset? It's like, well, it's something that still has value. And then there's value, because value can mean different things. We know value traditionally as, how many dollars can I get with this? Right? It's like, well, there is that, but maybe you don't get dollars. Maybe you get another asset, and that asset gets you dollars. Right?
Exactly.
And so it took a long time, but it's been very exciting for me to go down this journey of being able to structure yourself with multiple assets, and kind of like a wheel of wealth. You're talking about the example you just gave. You got your house. What if you're able to get another house, charge rent, and the rent from that house takes care of your current house payment? And what if that house its mortgage payment is cheaper than yours. Now you've lessened your monthly mortgage payment. You got someone else in that one that's paying you rent, but that rent goes to pay off your home, and now you're still $300 up, plus if there's any profit from the renters at all, which typically would probably go to a fund that you would have set aside for maintenance and all that other jazz.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that's their mindset. They think about those things. How can I get my house payment lower? How am I also going to be able to protect that asset and this asset, and things of that nature? And it's so cool. It's really so cool. Oh, I love it. I love it. Mm-hmm.
And I was part of a network marketing company a couple of years ago, and something that really stuck with me is, they talk about wealthy people normally have 7+ streams of income. That could be 7 rental properties, or that could be a couple stocks to pay dividends. That could be a number of things. And and that was kind of, it didn't really get me in the mindset, but it really got me thinking. You do something one time and you get paid over and over. Okay, well, that's a stream of income now. It might be $10 a month, but that's $10 a month you got coming in, and you grow on top. And something that I got into probably about a year ago is the infinite banking concept. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it's basically, I don't necessarily use the way they were describing it, because it's more of the concept, right? It's more of using your money to fund what your purchases are, and then paying yourself back. Okay, so the way I heard it was, every dollar ever spent goes back into the bank. And people, that's right, yeah. But has anyone ever really thought about it? So let's say I go and I work and I get paid, and that money goes in from my company's bank account into my bank account. And then I go and I pay my electric bill, and it comes out of my bank account and it goes into the electric company's bank account. And then I go and I pay for gasoline, and it comes out of my bank account and it goes to the gasoline, or the convenience store's bank account. And then the convenience store pays their employees, and it goes into the employee bank account, and then they go buy groceries at the store, and it goes in the store's bank account. Every single dollar spent goes back into the bank. And what happens in the bank? They take your money and they invest it to make more from it, right? So the way they were showing how to do it was with dividend paying whole life insurance policies. Because if you structure a whole life insurance policy correctly, and there's certain ways to do it, but basically you can borrow against, when you have that money put in there. It's almost like a 401k plan, but you save into that whole life insurance policy, and you can borrow a loan. And so the way they structure it is like, hey, you don't want to go buy a $20,000 car. Okay, well, you have enough money in that insurance policy. You can go borrow a loan from it, and then you pay that loan back with interest. You pay yourself back with interest, because that will not only put the 20,000 in there, but now you're growing that 20,000 on top of it, right? Plus you're paying the premium every month, so you got more money going into it. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna pay for the vehicle one way or another.
Yeah, exactly.
You're either gonna save up money and you're gonna pay cash for it, which means you got a payment every month. You're putting money into a savings account for a year or 2 or 3, however long it takes. You're gonna get a loan off of it, which means a bank or another institution is giving you the money and they're getting the interest back. Or you can do it through your own money, right? You use your own money. Either way, that money is gonna get paid. Either way, you're going to have a payment. You have to save the money and get the money somehow. Now, if you went and put, $500 down on, the casino and walked away with 20 grand, hey, that's great. And you wanted to buy a car, but at the end of the day, that's not most of our situations, unfortunately.
No, it's not. No way.
Right.
First off, the wife would be like, what are you doing at the casino with $500?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Continue.
But yeah, so that kind of led me down the path of, I want to use my money and then pay myself back and grow my wealth that way. And so now you have assets that are growing in wealth. Bitcoin, right? That's an asset. With the inflation and everything going on with the fiat currencies, and primarily the US dollar, because I live in America, so that's a currency that I use. But we're inflating at such a rapid pace that if you're not putting your money into assets, unfortunately, I feel like you're going backwards. You know, your $100 in your savings account this year is going to be only $90 worth of purchasing power next year. And so, you know, when I kind of stumbled upon inflation, and I didn't look at it as the cost of living going up every year, but it's really the purchasing power going down. So you can't purchase as much. That's kind of that mindset, right? Gets you thinking about a little bit different. So you look at Bitcoin, you look at the crypto market and as a whole, that, you know, some of that money is starting to roll into there. And so you can go buy assets and you can put your money into it and you can start growing your wealth instead of putting it in a bank account and letting the bank use that money to loan out and you getting 0.02% interest on it, which is virtually nothing. You start having platforms that you can stake on, or you can just buy it and hold it and let it continue going up. As long as you don't need the money, as long as you're basically being able to save every month, then you're able to, you know, hold that wealth and, you know, have a little hedge against inflation. And, you know, that kind of led me down the path of looking at ways to borrow against those assets, right? And so now I have an asset. I have that chunk of money, whatever you want, whatever, you know, you have to think about to make sense to you. But I have that money. I want to go borrow against it. You know, I want to take it and be able to move it into another asset or buy more of that asset, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to, like you said, you want to get in that mindset and you want to start buying more assets. You want to get more residual income, passive income, those 7 or 8 or whatever different ways that wealthy people have generating income every month. You know, those are the mindset that I really wanted to get into and I really wanted to try to go down and figure out. And so that led me to platforms like Nexo and Celsius. And I know, you know, you and I both had dipped our toe in Nexo. So you're able to deposit your assets into the Nexo program. I think they support like 20 or 22 different assets right now. But then you can borrow loans against them to buy more assets. And that opens up doors.
So, you know, you mentioned borrowing money to get another asset, right? I think that's very, very crucial because I knew that you could, you know, you could do like a home equity loan. You know, when I was in my teens, you know, I knew that people or parents could do that, right? If you owned a home, you could go to the bank and be like, hey, I have a house, I need some money, right? So the difference between, I would say, well, let's say the educated and uneducated on this subject is uneducated will go spend their money on the Ferrari that they just borrowed, right? Now they got to pay the bank back, right?
Yeah.
You know, versus where you're talking about right now, where you and I have dipped our toe in Nexo, where we can borrow against our cryptos. And instead of going to get the Ferrari, we buy more cryptos, you know, and it's like, well, yes, that's really the move. That should really be the only reason you borrow against an asset is to go get another asset. Other than that, you should not be borrowing against your asset, you know?
Right.
And so I think people don't really know that that's an option to do that. You know, the people are like, oh yeah, I get that one, and then I can borrow a little bit from that one, then I can go get a smaller one, I can get another one and another one, and so on and so forth. I mean, you don't want to get too deep into borrowing there either, but that is a move. That is a very wise, well, I'd say smart move. I don't know about wise. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but because there is some risk there for sure. You know, there's definitely some risk there. You were just Matthew and I were just speaking earlier before we we're doing this call right here, and Matthew was talking about how at his Nexo account he got a notification saying, "Hey, might need to deposit a little more funds in here to hedge against the market because the market has taken another dip on this wonderful Black Friday." So yeah. So hey, everything's on discount, including cryptos. But if you have a loan, but not a big deal. It's cool that they do that instead of just liquidate your stuff out from me, you know, from underneath your nose.
Yeah, and so we'll kind of go into explain a little bit for those that haven't used it or don't
Yeah,
understand.
let's talk about
Um,
Nixo. Let's talk about
yeah,
Nixo for a little bit.
so it's really neat. You can borrow with Bitcoin. You can borrow up to 50% of the value in dollars or whatever currency you're in. So if you had $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, you can borrow up to 50%, which is 5,000 of that. Some of the other ones are I think 30%.
Yeah,
Um,
30% is
so
kind of the industry standard right now. That's correct. Go ahead.
and then if you have a stable coin like Tether, USDC, you can borrow up to 90%. So why would you be able to borrow 90% against a stable coin, 50% against Bitcoin, and only 30 against like Litecoin or something like that? Well, because it's more volatile, right?
Mm-hmm.
A stable coin is pegged to what? A stable fiat currency. The dollar. So why would they let you borrow a loan? Okay, so has anyone, if you've ever went and got a loan, like let's say a personal loan, and you're just using it to do whatever, maybe $5,000 for a personal loan, you're going to use it for who knows. Well, the bank is going to want something because it's not secured by anything like buying a vehicle or a house or something backing it. So you might have to put up collateral. You might have to put up a truck or vehicle title to back that $5,000 loan. Well, if
Right.
God forbid you can't pay it back, what could happen? The bank could take that vehicle. They could take that collateral. So with Nexo, you already have the collateral. You have the asset, right? You're borrowing against it. But
Right.
like you were talking about, if the market does start going down, you can sell a fraction or a Satoshi of a Bitcoin or
Mm-hmm.
of a Litecoin or
Mm-hmm.
of a stable coin, right? So
Right.
you have the collateral there. And what it will do is they have an oracle, basically their algorithm or program, whatever you want to call it, that watches everything, and it will liquidate just a small bit if you want it to, and you can go pay the loan yourself if you want.
Yeah.
But it will liquidate just a little bit to make sure you're within that threshold so it doesn't liquidate your whole asset. Because if you had a vehicle up, it's not like they could go take the wheels and tires and sell that to me. They're going to take the whole thing.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, we got to take your left front fender and the light today.
Yeah. So good luck passing the inspection.
Yeah.
But with cryptos, you're able to do that. You're able to sell, a little bit of that to pay the payment. Now,
Right.
would you want to do that? Me personally, no. I want to hold the asset. I want to get rid of the fiat, the dirty money, and I want to put it into an asset that's going up in value.
Sure.
But if you had to do that, then it could liquidate a little bit just so you stay there. And then, once the market starts going back up, if it does, not saying it's going to, but once it does, then you don't worry about it. And it's not a traditional loan either. That's something that I had to wrap my head around was, okay, I go get this loan. What are my payments every month? What is my,
Right.
how do I pay every month? Well, it's not a traditional loan. Things are changing with cryptos. Everything is changing. And that's one of them. Now you don't have to have a monthly payment. As long as you stay above that threshold, you might be paying the interest, but you don't have that payment where you got $300 a month for 36 months, $300 a month. You got to worry about it. No, it's not like that. And then you can borrow against it and then use that to pay the first loan back. So if you have enough and it's continue going up and up, then you can borrow to pay off the previous loan and then keep the difference for your monthly expenses, yearly expenses, whatever. And I mean, it opens up so many different doors. Now, like you said, though, you wouldn't want to get in over your head. You'd want to get in there, dip your toe in, what you and I are doing right now, and trying to figure it all out and see what's going to happen. And everything's so volatile right now. You need to be careful. But when things stable out a little bit more, platforms like that, I think, are going to be kind of the way things are going now. Some people might have their preferences, and they say, I don't like that because you have to give up custodianship of your coins.
True.
Right.
Yep.
And that scares people, not your keys, not your coins. Right. And that's why a lot of people say, don't hold your crypto in exchange. Something happens in exchange, you might not be able to get in.
Yep. And we've seen that. We've seen that in the early 2017, 2018 ICO days. We've seen that happen. And so, we've experienced that. So that could be scary times.
Exchange is not working, not letting you in. Oh, our server went down. You can't get on. Cryptos are tanking. I can't sell it. What do I do?
Yeah.
But at the same time, people also say, well, you're putting your money in a centralized platform And so what's the difference between that and a bank? And I'd like to kind of explain, for me, the banks have all the power, right? The Federal Reserve, because they control all the money. Okay, so you put your money into a platform like Nexo, and they allow staking too. So you don't have to get a loan. You could put your Bitcoin in there, your Litecoin, a few of the other assets, and you can stake and earn interest on that, like a bank account used to be able to do. Back 20, 30 years ago, you could earn a little return by putting your money into that savings account, and it made sense back then. Now it doesn't. The banks don't give any of that back. But what if you could decentralize loans? If I wanted to go buy a house, I want to go get a mortgage, and I need to borrow $300,000, let's say. I go to the bank, they give me the money, they get all the interest. But what if you could diversify that, and you could have 3,000 people give you a little bit of money, and then when you pay back that loan, they earn a little bit of the interest. So now I have some money to invest, and I don't need it today, probably not going to need it tomorrow, hopefully not next year. Why can't I put it in there and I can earn a little bit of interest? So now you're decentralizing everybody being able to get a piece of that pie instead of just the banks. So you're going to have platforms like Nexo and Celsius and probably many others that come out in the next few years. Yeah, you might have to give over custodianship of your keys to, basically put your coins on their platform. But at the end of the day, if they're going to decentralize that wealth, yeah, they're going to get a little cut because they got people to pay, they got servers to pay for, they got to make sure they're paying their developers to keep all the bugs out and keep everything safe and secure. But as long as they're insured to, if God forbid something ever happened, then why wouldn't I want to put my money in there and earn a little bit through staking? Because at the end of the day, if everyone could earn a little bit on top of what they have, then everybody wins. Even somebody that can only put in 50, $100 a month, you divide that over the course of 10, 15, 20 years, that's going to be a decent little return if you're able to do that. And then you're earning on top of it and you're compounding that growth. And so a lot of people have to kind of wrap their heads around it. And it might not make sense to everybody. But for me, hopefully, with the way I just described it, it makes sense to me because there's too much central power. There's too much central control. And if we can spread that out and we can give people a little bit of return on their money and a reason to invest, and then when it's their time to go get a car loan or a loan for a house or whatever, they can borrow from everybody else that they've been helping out by giving them money now. And then everybody wins. And I'm hoping that that's the way this space is moving, that it's going to allow, through smart contracts and things like that, it's going to allow people to be able to do stuff like that. Because if we could do that, I think it would open up a lot of doors, maybe take some of the burden off of people, and they'll be able to invest and make money on their investment, which at the end of the day, that's, kind of the goal, hopefully, of what you're trying to invest for the future, your children, your grandchildren, etc. So, and to kind of move on from that, when you take a loan and you borrow against your asset, guess what you don't have? A taxable event. And that,
and that's a beautiful thing.
It is.
The only time that we love debt. Oh, nope, not taxable event. Sorry, it's debt. I'm just a broke person.
And you talk to somebody like, well, there's good debt and there's bad debt. And
exactly.
You're crazy. Really? Then why are rich people in debt up to their eyeballs?
Right.
Why do they get in as much debt as they can? Because there's good debt and there's bad debt. When you have debt on assets that are appreciating in value, in my opinion, that's good debt. Why? Because the value of the asset is going up while the debt is going down. Now, if you have it on a vehicle, the debt is going down, but the vehicle is depreciating value as well. Right. Now, if you had that for a work vehicle, let's say you own a construction company and you had a truck that pulled the machines around or hauled the guys to and from the work location. Yeah, that could be an asset, right? Because it's something that you use to make.
Honestly, the car, say the consumer's car, right? That's really a consumable, right? I don't think cars should be considered, an asset at all. Now the dump truck I could say is an asset, but we'd have to classify it maybe as a working asset because they're using it for a tool in your business. So that might be considered an asset, but the car, I don't even think it should be an asset at all. It should just be a consumable product because that's all we do. We consume it, it loses value, it deteriorates over time. Even if you left it outside for 10 years, it's going to rust and bust, and you're not going to be able to, use it. A house is kind of the same thing, but the land that the house sits on, well, they're not making any land anymore. You know what
No.
I mean?
Land.
So yeah, no land. And I totally agree with you on the good debt, bad debt. But that's something like that took me a long time to really understand.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry, debt, all debt's bad. I don't want to have debt. Nobody wants to have debt. It's like, no, you debt in a way to use it to further benefit your financial security, and thus to an extension your kids and grandkids that you spoke of earlier. Yes, I'm willing to do that, because
Hmm.
now that debt is working for me, right?
Yes.
That's good
Yeah.
debt.
And another thing to think about is if you're using somebody else's money to
Mm-hmm.
buy, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're somebody else's money to pay that debt back,
Mm-hmm.
that's good debt. Because now, I mean, this is a long scenario, right? 20, 30-year mortgage. But if I was able to get a loan to buy an asset like a house,
Mm-hmm.
and then so I use the money from the bank, I use the loan to buy the house, and then I use renters to pay the payment every month.
Mm-hmm.
Then at the end of that 20 or 30-year loan, I'm probably going to have to put some money into it. Let's not think you're going to
Sure.
walk away. Water
Yeah,
heater,
yeah, no, yeah,
got to
exactly.
redo the paint. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, if you're net positive as far as your rent to loan every month, you're making, you're charging more rent than you're having to pay in the loan, then
Sure.
you got a couple hundred extra dollars, hopefully going into your account. You're net positive, right? And now you use the bank's money to buy it, the tenant's money to pay it off. Now you have an asset that you never virtually had to use your money for, that now you own all of, that
Right.
now you're generating an income from. You can leave to your kids, you can liquidate if you wanted to and go buy a bigger house or maybe a
Mm-hmm.
duplex or start a business or whatever. And so, like you said, that's it. And if people could wrap their heads around that, that's why it would be good debt, because it's generating you some sort of cash positive flow every month. You're
It
you're
is.
coming out. So if you're doing
Exactly.
that, then yeah, I mean, that, and there's more than just real estate that you can do that with. But if people could wrap their heads around that and really make sense of it, that's how people in real estate really make money. They get that initial rental property, that first one, and they wait a couple years, they get some equity built into it, and then they borrow against it to buy the second house. Now you got two houses, you got two renters, you're making money, and then you borrow against them in a few years later to buy the third one. Because the market's always going to go up and down. So I'm not saying it's always going to be available, but in the long haul, real estate is continuing to go up. That, like you said, they're not making any more land, and
Yeah.
so as long as you maintain the house,
Mm-hmm.
and you have tenants in there that are destroying it, and you're having to go in and spend $4,000 or $5,000 every year to fix holes or patch this or redo the carpet, then you're going to continue moving up and up. And you keep doing that, then you sell one of the smaller ones, get into a duplex or something. Maybe you got two or three different properties in one, you get two or three different tenants in there, getting two or three different uh,
Streams
rent
of
coming,
income. Yep. Mm-hmm.
right? And so, I mean, man, it just, you start thinking about that. And once it really kind of clicks, at least it did for me, I was like, man, that's why don't they teach you this in school? Why did I
Because
have to
they don't
go?
want everybody
Well,
doing it.
that's
you
exactly
know
right.
that?
And I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's that easy either, but at the
No,
end of
it's
the day,
not. Mm-hmm.
if we thought like that and we really saw the way the whole monetary system as a whole and kind of how it works, I think it would make more sense, and a lot of people would hopefully think about their money a little bit different, might spend a little bit differently, save a little bit differently, and then invest a little bit differently. And if we could do that, hey, I think it could be a lot better for society as a whole.
Oh,
Matthew.
yeah, yeah, totally. I would totally agree with you there because I know you're a union worker, and so am I. And I'll tell you what, um, honestly, if I didn't have this job, my life would be horrible, financially at least.
Hmm.
And I know there's a lot of now. I'm not saying all unions are created equal; they are so not. But
Hmm.
the wage that I receive by comparison to my local area, I make a darn good living
Hmm.
with the wage I get. However, in our retirement accounts, we have 3 in my union. The one at the national or international level seems to always be in the red.
Oh,
So yeah, it always is. And you mentioned earlier about, if everybody could just, if you were able to invest maybe $50 a month, and you were able to get the cryptos, and then you took those cryptos and you held them on, say, a platform like Nexo or Celsius. I know there's a few others that offer you an interest off you leaving that on there.
mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here going, if I could just go into one union meeting and to go, guys, I know how to get us out of the red. Just
Right.
take X amount, buy this, just wait 2 years, just 2 years, and you'll really see it, and which then let's take that down to the worker bee, because I know a lot of people aren't with unions, at their jobs. They don't have that. And that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally okay. But they have the 401k that they're getting. And I know a lot of people, and I used to be one of them. I don't pay attention to my 401k. I just, hey, there's a deduction on my check. It goes into this fund, and it seems to go up every time I add some money to it. But I never actually stopped to figure out the rate of interest my 401k account was growing by
Mm-hmm.
comparison to how much money I was dumping into it. Right.
Right.
Okay. So let me tell you, the interest rate was a lot less year over year
Oh,
versus with the crypto market right now. I mean, there's other platforms that are offering you anywhere from 8 to 12% interest just on a stable coin.
yep.
So let's say you don't want to get into cryptos, or maybe not, no, you don't want to, but you just don't know. If you got into a stable coin and you just left it on an exchange that's offering that high interest while you're learning about other cryptocurrencies, I'll tell you what,
Mm-hmm.
within that year of you learning and figuring things out like Bitcoin, or maybe you do want to get in Ethereum for other reasons, or maybe you don't I want to get to Ethereum for other reasons. Whatever the case may be, you've just earned 8 to 12% with your money sitting on the exchange like Nexo, or a platform like Nexo or Celsius, versus
Mm-hmm.
B of A or Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
They don't give you jack diddly. No offense to them. That's just what they're offering or what they're not. Those are facts.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. And I
know.
mean, that's all we're talking about is what they're offering now. I'm not saying that's going to be
Yeah.
sustainable or that's going
Oh,
to be the next 5, 10 years,
yeah. We
but for
don't know.
right now, that like it is what they're offering, you
Mhm.
know? And it's exciting because yeah, my like one of my family members, I've been talking to him about it, and he decided to dip his toe in, but he was, like you said, a little bit nervous. Did he wanted
Mhm.
to learn a little? Okay, we'll put it in a stable coin and let it just sit there and ride. And he's seen what he's gained in 2 months. He said, I wasn't even doing that in a full year when I had it in my savings account. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, I'm not saying that's going to last forever, but you see how it kind of makes sense. I said, now let's do a little research on, Bitcoin, because
Mhm.
you're not going to earn as much. They're not giving as much interest, but at the same time, it's actually appreciating in value. At the beginning of this year, what it was, 20, 25,000. Now it's hit 68,000.
Mhm.
It's come down a little bit, on this great Black Friday, like you said, but,
Yeah, discount, baby. It's all about the
as,
discounts.
but if you'd have had it in that at the beginning of the year, you'd be up a substantial amount right now. And
Mhm.
it's all risk. Investing is always going to be a risk. It's just, what's your risk tolerance? Do you want to try it? Do you see value in that asset or that asset class, or do you want to stay more traditional, like you said, with 401ks and Roth IRAs, things like that? But I saw something a couple years ago, and I'm not saying it's true, but it says 401k plans. The market goes up 10%, my account goes up 2. Market goes down 10%, my account goes down 10%. Market stays sideways, mine stays sideways. But I
Yep.
still got to pay a fee every year.
Yeah.
For what? I just put my money in there. I pick what I want them to buy, and they
Mhm.
just execute it. But I still have to pay these management fees. And with inflation, if you're not meeting or exceeding what the inflation is, you're going backwards. and the market has been hot the last couple of years, going up and up, which scares me because I do not see the value of these companies increasing. But when you can borrow $5 million at 0.5% interest as a big company, and you can go take that 5 million and turn it into 8 million because
Right.
they trade, and you only had to
Sure.
pay half interest on that 5 million to make 3 million on top of it. Well, of course they're going to do that. And if they buy back their shares, guess what the share price does? It starts going up. But does
Exactly.
the value of the company really go up?
Nope.
Nope. Right? Did they
Well,
put that in
I mean,
research?
maybe we don't know, but on
Yeah, on
paper, did
paper.
it do it? On paper, did it? Did you see it? It's like,
Yeah.
well, no. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah. And so anyways, it's really scary. And so I'm not saying the stock market is bad to be in the bond market, but I just think it's heavily manipulated, especially right now, and it just scares me. I'd rather put it into cryptos myself, but I've been in cryptos for probably close to 5 years now, or maybe even a little bit more, and I understand it a lot better. I feel like I get a good grasp on it, and I'm also young, so my risk tolerance might be a little bit higher. I have time to make up for any mistakes I've made, any losses that I might incur. So somebody that's a little bit closer to retirement, they might want to be a little bit less risky, and that's fine. But there's so many opportunities out there right now that people should at least try, if possible, educate themselves. Turn off that talk radio show and listen to some YouTube maybe on your way to work. And that's a lot of how I learned, just
Mhm.
listening to YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, listening to things like that. When I was out mowing the lawn, I'd put my headphones on and I'd listen to YouTube, or I'd listen to a podcast and get that education while I was doing something else, and that's how I've gotten to the point I am now.
Matthew, you talk about YouTube videos and podcasts and things. What are some of the things that you're actually listening to today? Because look, real deal, 2017, when I first, made my first purchase. Prior to that, I had no idea where to go to get information. And now the information that is out there now comparative to back then is huge. There's so much information out there, but yet people still don't know where to
Mhm.
go. So why don't you, if you don't mind sharing a few places that you get your information, not just crypto related, but this bigger picture, this this mindset that we need to have. I'd say a wealthy mindset. Where do you go for some of those channels?
Well,
What are
the
some
uh,
of those channels?
the videos that really led me down this path and got me looking at it was a series by Mike Maloney called The Hidden Secrets of Money. And at the time, whenever I stumbled upon them, there was 7 of them, and now I think there's 10.
Okay.
But that man and what he's done for free, offers for free, and those hidden secrets of money, I would encourage anyone that had the time. They're an hour to hour and a half long, most of the episodes. And like I said, there's 10, I believe now. But if you could watch those and just grasp a third or a half of what he's trying to explain about the monetary system, how the Federal Reserve works, how, the history of money, it changed my outlook on the way I saw things completely. And so for anybody that wanted to dip their toe or watching this, I would suggest starting there, because if you don't know there's a problem, it's really hard to see a solution. When you see
Yeah.
there's a problem and you see something over here and you start learning about it, you're like, well, that makes more sense. That seems a little bit better. That's more fair. And you start seeing the potential and the things that are going on over here that are not being fixed for some reason. And so that's what I suggest to most people wanting to get involved. Go look
Okay.
up Mike Maloney
Mike Maloney. Mike
and the
Maloney.
Hidden Secrets of Money. And then also, Mike Maloney is into cryptos, but he's mostly a precious metals guy, which is
Mhm.
another asset class to really take a look at if you want to start looking into it. But he's somebody that I try to follow because he does look at a lot of graphs, a lot of charts. He looks at economic things going on, not just in America, but in the world as a whole. And
Mhm.
so that's really good to kind of stay current with things that are going on, what the government is putting out. So I try to watch is anything that Mike Maloney and his YouTube channel puts out. He does interviews. He's got a lot of different guests on. He talks with people that run I don't know if it's hedge funds, but more financial institutions that deal with a lot with precious metals and wealthy investors that get into heavy metals and things like
Right.
that. He
Right.
talks about why it's, better to buy physical and not the paper contracts and what the difference is. So
Sure.
that's somebody that, would give you a good education on the monetary system. Like I said, he
Yep.
does talk a lot more about precious metals, but I think that's a great asset class to go into, just like cryptos.
I think a lot of the same, a lot of the same principles, concepts, ideals,
Mhm.
um, can come from any asset class, any of them, whether that's real estate, precious metals, commodities. They all have, I would say, some of the same foundational principles within there. So, if individuals are brand new, I'd say just pick one, just pick any class and
Mhm.
start trying to learn just about it conceptually, and look at the bigger picture. This Mike Maloney, Hidden Secrets of Money, he's going to get you to understand economics, and economics is everywhere. Bitcoin, Ferrari, Windermere, it doesn't matter, what asset class you're talking about. That economics apply to all.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, man, if you don't realize there's a problem or really understand what it is, it's really
Mhm.
hard solution. So yeah, for anybody that really wants to do a good deep dive, I would definitely suggest him. And then, like you alluded to, Bitcoin Ben, I do like following him because he just doesn't talk about what's going on in the markets and what Bitcoin's doing today. He really talks about the space and how it's growing as a whole. It's really
Yep.
hard to see the big picture, but when you realize how you can send $1, $5, $100 million anywhere in the world, and it's almost instant, and it's on a ledger that everyone can see,
Mhm.
that that's a lot of power, and you don't have to worry about going to a bank or a third party and them telling you you can't do this, or you're going to have to wait, or we need more info about this. No, I send it and it's there. And so Bitcoin Ben, like I said, is somebody that I try to follow every day. I'm a Patreon of his, so I like watching his Patreon videos. He does get into other stuff, but I like stuff too.
Yeah,
Um,
he does squirrel sometimes, doesn't he?
yeah, he
Yeah, but
does.
that's where his nuggets come from, though. That's where,
Oh yeah,
some, like, he'll drop some real interesting knowledge on us during some of those times where he just starts talking about something else, and then all of a sudden we're getting some other nuggets of information, and then he brings it back around to what we're talking about usually in that Patreon videos.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then Raul Paul, and
Yep.
he's a really good one because he was a macro investor for years, and
Hmm.
he is, I will say, um, a little, I don't want to use the word more intelligent, but he's a little bit harder to follow if you're brand new because some of the terms he uses and things like that
Yep.
are
Hmm.
kind of like, I don't know what he just said. Is he still speaking English? But he definitely is somebody who does some great interviews. One of my favorite all time of his was with Michael Saylor, and that's who I was going to say next. Anything you can find from Michael Saylor, because he's also very well educated on not just Bitcoin, but different asset classes and why
Exactly.
he chose cryptos and Bitcoin over, real estate, commercial real estate, stuff like that. I mean, that interview that he did with Michael Saylor, it's like a little over 2 hours long, I think, but my God, I think I've watched it 2 or 3 times now. And each time, I mean, the first hour is really Michael just talking about his past and how he got to be, where he's at now, running micro strategies and everything. But it's super interesting. He's a super interesting guy. He gets you locked in. And then when they really go into everything, I mean, you can see Raul just kind of sit back and just let him talk. And a
which
lot
is
of times,
which is probably something that Raul does not do.
no,
Sit
and that's
back
what
and
I
just,
say.
yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
he's back and forth, and he likes to. And he just kind of let Michael go, and it was really an incredible interview. And I suggest anybody that's kind of dipped their toe into it and still kind of hesitant or on the fence, watch this, because it might not all click. He uses terms, or this ratio and that ratio. You might not know exactly what it is, but on a whole, man, that was a great interview. It was something that I saved to my watch later, and I definitely send to people that want to learn more. And then, just basically just kind of cruising around. I got a couple different Telegram channels that I'm a part of. I'm a big user of Telegram. I think it's a great way to converse with other people, ask questions.
Mhm.
You do have to be careful and not get scammed, but just basically news articles, things like that. Um, and so, yeah, those are people that I would suggest maybe hitting up, looking at Vic Sweer, maybe even Jason at Four. I don't watch him too much anymore. But he got into cryptos pretty heavy there for a couple years, and I learned a lot of stuff from him. He had some
Yep.
tutorials on exchanges, and that's how I knew how to use Ether Delta all them years ago. God,
I
it's a lot
know.
easier now. Thank God.
It's a lot easier now. Like, the people that have yet to get into cryptos just really don't understand how difficult it was.
Oh, and I'm sure it was way worse in 2013 and 14.
Oh yeah.
Set your own to even have wallets. They didn't have apps you could download and send it
Nope.
to. So even the people that were back in that time said, well, heck, 2017 it was already getting easy, and here I
Yeah.
was feeling a person in the middle of the ocean with both my arms cut off trying to stay afloat.
Yeah, right.
But it has really improved the last 4 or 5 years. It really has. It's
It has.
more simple. Things are starting to get more simplified. There's a lot of good projects, and the projects that made it through that big bear market for a couple of years are really starting to prosper now. We're really starting to see the coins that actually have use cases and that kept developing regardless
Yep.
of the price that we have
Yep.
envisioned. And we're going to make it happen. We raised some money with our ICO, and we're gonna have to hire an investment team to make sure that we keep that wealth, kind of what we were talking about earlier, and
Yep.
making sure we make the right decisions. We have to pay lawyers and make sure we stay current with regulation, et cetera, et cetera. But the projects that were able to do that are really starting to shine true now, and really making some big headway. And I think it's great. I'm really excited about where everything's going, and just can't wait to see where it takes us all.
I know.
So
I'm excited. I'm very excited. It's awesome. Thank you for sharing who you listen to, because I think that's important. I think that's something that I know I forget just to mention to my family members that I talk to. I'm like, oh yeah, hey, go listen to so and so. This is where I heard it from. Or go listen to this. I listen to this now, but you're not going to get it. Go listen to this first, and then listen to that. And if you want to talk to me about this guy or this gal, let's have a chat. Because I spent lots of nights up way past my bedtime watching videos because I wanted to learn and all that. To Michael Saylor though, and I'm just want to bring this back around real quick. Do you still have some time, or do you have to go?
Oh yeah,
You got time? Okay, perfect. So I know that you and I are a member of a couple of the same Discord groups, and I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here. Let's do that one. So this spreadsheet is courtesy of Jim over at Bitcoin Management, and he has two sheets here, and this is Michael Moss. Have you ever watched Michael Moss, his videos?
Yeah.
He's pretty good. I like him. So Michael Moss takes Michael Saylor's strategy of investing in Bitcoin, and this is his numbers. Michael Saylor is saying that Bitcoin will continue its 200% growth year over year. Now, I know we talked about borrowing against your cryptos today, right? And you touched on it just real quick about how we could borrow against our cryptos to either go get another asset, and then we can get interest on the asset, and then we can live off our crypto or off our investments. And this strategy here is just that, to where if according to Michael Saylor, if we have $100,000, now granted, this is $100,000. That's way too steep for me and the people that I associate with, but nonetheless, it got me thinking. And so let's say you couldn't do $100,000. Let's just say, you've worked real hard and you were able to save $5,000. In the Michael Saylor's scenario, on year 5, where he would have you borrowing, your first year, you'd borrow 5% of your holdings, which is out of $810,000. That's 5 years after you've invested $5,000, you would have $810,000 after that year. So technically the year six. But you're able to borrow 5% and you would have 20,000, a little over $20,000 that you could either A, live off of, or B, go get another asset, do what you will with it. But this is the start of that wheel of wealth. You could take this $20,000 and do, like you said, get another asset, or maybe you do want to pay off that credit card or debt right there, or what have you. But then the next year it grows another 200%. You borrow again, and you borrow 5.5%. You pay off this loan, and now you're left with a net of $46,000 to live off of, or do whatever you want the rest of the year. Now, what I liked about Michael Moss is he kind of brought it down to a very, very more conservative level. Could Bitcoin grow 200% year over year over the next 10 years? Yeah, there's only going to be 21 million. It's possible. But for the sake of keeping a sane mind, Michael Moss's numbers were a little bit more palatable year over year. But still, nonetheless, investing $5,000 in Bitcoin today, right now, even if you didn't touch it for 10 years, that would net you a little over $750,000.
Right.
So show me an asset that does that.
Yeah.
Show me any asset. I mean, you can look at Bitcoin's history for the past, 12 years into it now. Look at that, because it was under a penny when it first came out. I mean, I remember when 2017, at the beginning, it was like $600, $900, something like that.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? If it was that price today, I'd sell everything I have. I'd sell everything. We'd be macaroni and cheese for the next 5 years. No problem. I would not care.
Right. A lot of people say that, we're still early. I mean, there's still so many people that don't understand what cryptos are, how to get them, anything. And they're going to be kind of, I wouldn't say the late adopters, but they're probably going to be the ones that unfortunately wait until it's something you can just diversify into from your check every month. And by then the price will probably be way, way more than it is. But, I understand, man, it's hard to juggle work, being a husband or wife, being a parent of children, trying to worry about dinner and clothes and homework, all that. Yeah. But that's why I say, if you're doing something that you're not really around other people, and you could throw on some headphones, like mowing the lawn or driving to work, putting it on your Bluetooth, or even getting some earphones and listen to it. If you don't have, Bluetooth or something in your car, start getting educated, because, man, I think the space as a whole, as it starts really getting adopted, I mean, you got countries now like El Salvador that are making it legal tender for their citizens. If everything goes good, I feel like it's going to be a test run for other countries. So if it turns out to work out, which, I mean, there's going to be hiccups and bumps in the road, but at the end of the day, if it really takes off, those other countries are going to be like, man, we could do this for our citizens. And then you look into the being able to use renewable energy, like El Salvador is using their volcanoes right now to run mining rigs, because you can't go out in the middle of a 10,000 acre field and just create a city. You could put a whole bunch of windmills up, and if it's like, let's say it's real windy out there, but then you're going to have to run that power all the way back to a city or a power plant or something. But if you could just set up a mining facility and put miners in there, and you could generate all that electricity from the windmill and mine Bitcoin with it, now you're generating an asset, and now you can use that asset to put back into your country. And that's what El Salvador is looking into doing. They're using the volcano and the energy produced by Mother Nature to be able to mine with it. And then they can take that crypto and they can leverage it. They can borrow against it. They can use it for infrastructure. They can use it for different programs. They can use it for all kinds of stuff to put back into their country. And when you can do that, and now you're actually producing income as a country and not just from your exports, then maybe you could take your taxes down a little bit, take the burden off your citizens a little bit. And that's something that you could do. I'm not saying they're going to. I've read things with, a crypto city that they're looking into doing, that's what they want to do. Who knows how that's going to work out? But if when you really take hold of everything and you kind of see everything on a macro scale, you could do that as an asset that's appreciating, that the world can buy. It's not by country or by state or by province. It's something that the entire world can buy, and it's not really run off of like the NASDAQ. It opens and closes. No, it's
Right.
24.
No, it's 24/7. Yep.
As long as the internet's up, you can trade it, you can move it, you can send it to anywhere in the world, you can take it anywhere in the world. And let's be serious, if the internet goes down, money's really not going to matter anyways. You're not going to be able to go to the ATM and pull money out. You're not going to be able to go and use it to really buy. And even at that point, what am I going to be able to do with it? Then you're going to go to a barter system. So when people say, oh, well, they could take the internet down. Well, once it comes back up, everything is right there. Just like when you turn your computer off and then you turn it on the next day, everything you have, all your files are right there. And as long as there's at least one ledger somewhere, one miner somewhere with a copy of the blockchain, everything goes back to the way, everyone has the same amount in their
wallets. Yep.
So, you see that. And then, one of the examples I use, whenever I first got into it, I had a buddy that I worked with who had a daughter that liked to go traveling. She's 24, 25, and she would go to other countries. And I just was like, man, does that scare you? And he was like, yeah, things have happened before. And I got to thinking, what if, God forbid, they were some foreigners and they went to like a club or whatever, and there was some guys there that said, hey, they're Americans, we don't like Americans, decided to try to go get in a fight with some of the guys.
Sure, yeah, it happens all over the world. Yep.
Yeah,
if you're a tourist in another country, guess what? You're a target already. That goes for any and all countries, 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
And so let's say, God forbid, the guys get thrown in jail,
right.
Their wallets get taken,
sure.
And now the girls are left and they don't have money to bail them out of jail. Or what if they lost their purse and now they don't have a passport, they don't have money to pay food? Right. I was like, what would you do? How would you get them money? They're in another country. And he's like, well, I just have to go find Western Union and they might have to wait 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, with crypto, if they could go get a phone, or at least one of them have a phone or something, you could send them money. It could be there, almost instantly. Mm-hmm. And even back then, you could go to like localbitcoin.com and find somebody that you could go send or sell it to at a local coffee shop or this or that. I mean, back then, that's what you had. Now you have, a lot of different avenues you could do. But, you could send somebody funds basically immediately, and they could have access to them if, God forbid, they got in a bad situation like that, And it was just, that was kind of one of the first things that alluded to me, like, man, if I had kids, because at the time I didn't, and they were going over there more, it'd be scary. And then if they go overseas for like, education for college, or they're studying abroad, it's even worse because they're not coming back after a week or two. They're there for, 6, 8, 10 months. They have a visa to be over there. And, what if you needed to send them money for, they had to go get more this or that for school or something for their apartment, or their vehicle broke down or whatever,
Exactly.
And, there's so many different things that cryptos can solve issues where you don't have that third party trying to take their own cut. Need to $1,000 where in Western Union wants to take $200 as a fee. It's like, good Lord, that's ridiculous. It's still going to take 2 or 3 days. So, anyways, that's something that really struck me whenever I really started learning about cryptos.
Something that we have now. And we had at least, 3 years ago, was we have Bitcoin ATMs. Now, they've kind of rolled back some things due to local state legislations, but when they did come out, they were a two-way system. And what I mean by that is, one, you could insert your cash, you get a receipt, and that receipt is basically your Bitcoin, and then you'd have to go download the wallet, create an account, etc. Boom, there's your Bitcoin. All right. Mm-hmm. Now, You could do the opposite. You can sell your Bitcoin there. So you can even, a few of them, you can even go a step further. You could send a Bitcoin to a local one of their ATMs, and they'd give you a code. And then you could give that code to whoever you needed to give the code to, give them their name, and they'd have to scan their ID, and then they put in the code, but boom, they could go to that ATM machine and get money out. Just like Western Union, but without the 2 to 3 days. I mean, we're talking, which 7-Eleven are you at? This one. Okay, you need to go 2 blocks down because that's where the machine's at. Okay, wait right there. Boop, 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 boop. Do it. Cool. You're on your way and in your day. And I loved that. Just like what you're talking about. It's like, oh, that's so awesome, because it really is. It can really save your butt.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, if you wanted to,
excuse me,
state or even country line, that's fine. If you were trying to do that with, let's say you had $50,000 you bringing out of the country with you because you were going to go buy some art or some I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter, but you
doesn't matter.
Try to do that with cash, probably not going to work out too well. Try to do that with precious metals. If you had $50,000 of silver with you, it'd be kind of hard to check that. But you could have that power in the wallet on your phone in your pocket, and you could go anywhere in the world and no one's even the wiser. I mean, you could literally get your private keys or your seed phrases. You can memorize them. You wouldn't even have to take the phone with you. You could get to another country and go down to the local shop, buy one, upload the wallet, put in those seed phrases, and guess what? Boom, all that money sitting right there. Now you just crossed, an international border, and no one's a wiser, and that might be good, that might be bad. Hey, technology can be used for good and bad. It just depends how you want to do it, how you want to use the kind of person you want to be in whatever, because like I said, anything can be used for good or bad. So that whole rap of, it's used for, this or that, or to pay for drugs. Well, it's also used to do a lot of good too. One of the projects I follow, the Divi project, and they use Mathew nodes to help out in little towns or villas or whatever they call them, but they get food together. They last year I think they bought they bought like 100 bikes and 100 helmets for the kiddos, so they had bikes so they could ride around. I mean, projects are doing good things. I'm not saying bad things can't happen, but there's a lot of good that can be done with things like cryptos too. And you can see where the money's getting used. It's not like you're just donating to a big whatever and you're like, well, I wonder where my money went. You can actually kind of see where they used it because this all goes on the ledger, and you're like, hey, that's not something that they said they were going to do. I'm not going to donate to that anymore.
Right.
And move on. And so anyways, man, it's just, you could go on and on, but there's there's a lot of really incredible things and that are holding us back that we don't, we can bypass now. And it's just, all I see is more and more opportunity. I mean, the sky's the limit, really. What you can think of and imagine, if you can build it, we could go there, and
exactly.
The next 5-10 years are going to be incredible with the leaps and bounds that we're going to do, so.
Oh, most definitely. The crypto space, there's the investment side, and that's all great. But there's the technology side too that it continues to blow those of us that are in the space. It blows our minds. We're like, whoa, that's awesome. But I could see it happening. And and for the newbie that just doesn't know, and I really do mean that, they just don't know, their minds are just gonna they're gonna be a kid again. 100%, because I still am. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. What, we can do that? Yes. Yeah. It's beautiful. And what I like though, you talk about the ledger and how we can quote unquote follow the money, is the transparency. That transparency I like, because you did bring up a good point. Maybe you're donating to a charity. Well, and that charity, like you said they were going to do one thing and did another. And then you're like, hey, you could see that, it's right there. It's not 3 years later on, your local news broadcast, that is probably probably less than factual information on there anyways, but they're talking about a charity that was involved in some nefarious, activity,
Yeah.
but over those 3 years, you were still paid. But now, if they're using like the Divvy, if they're using a Divvy note and the Divvy wallet to take care of some of their needs and transactions and doing what they say they're doing, and they use the Divvy wallet, we can all see that. Anybody on the Divvy wallet can see, oh, that X amount went to this place. That's the amount that they said they were going to do. Good job.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, and you could, and that goes like you said with anything, and there are some, I guess, negative effects on that. And I could think of like big companies that are doing research and development. You want to stay ahead of your competition. So you'd want to be a little bit more anonymous of what you're putting your money into, because
Sure.
you would, you got to be ahead of your competition. But there's ways to do that. There's things you can do to, make sure that you're not just putting everything out there. But at the end of the day, that transparency, I don't see as a complete negative thing.
Yeah,
And
no.
because I used to like to donate to different charities, and then you learn that they spend way more money on salaries and what have you than they actually do on using the money for what they intended or what you thought they intended to use it on. And
Mhm.
so anyways, it's great. Like Lisa Davis, she runs a charity, and she runs the master nodes, and she's basically trying to give master nodes to different what is it, different, like, not hospitals but places that are really trying to help kids, because
Mhm.
then they can that money, they're getting the rewards every month, and they're able to invest that back into their practice or their whatever, and that's a great tool, that's a great use for it, and
Yep.
if companies could get on doing that, or insurance companies or whatever, and really look at that. Now they're making money on top of money. It's just like the investor, the me and you, the guy down the street, whatever. And giving that power back to the people, where people can really compound and grow. I mean, it's like I said, man, it's like you said, the sky's the limit. You learn about something, you're like, I got to get some of that. I
Yeah.
never even
Yeah.
thought of it
Yeah.
like that.
Exactly.
Makes so
Exactly.
much sense. How did I not? But now that it is, I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part of what they're doing, how they're helping, whatever, what they're growing or building. And it's great, man. I love it. There's a lot of negative things going on in the world right now, and you got to stay abreast of it. But I do try to come back to crypto, because it gets me fired up and excited that there's good going on. As much as you don't hear about it, there's a lot of good going on, a lot of projects making strides to really help out. And those are the things I want to be a part of. People helping others, like we're doing right now.
Yep. Yep.
Hopefully this video might speak to even one person, and if they can better their financial future and their family's future, then hey, I feel like I've done something to help somebody else's life. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. No, that's 100% it. I love being able to help people. That's why I started this channel, just to kind of, honestly, it was to help out the newbie, you know.
Hmm.
I know that I've got friends like you, and we have multiple friends that are like-minded just like us. And it's like, nope, I need to do my part to help get the word out, because yes, sometimes people charge for their time, and that's totally okay, especially if you're doing a deep dive one-on-one training and structure planning and all that. Totally feasible. But to get that individual to that point, I want to bring this information to them, to those
Hmm.
people out there, just like I've received wonderful, great information. You talk about Raul Paul and Mike Maloney. Did you pay for that? Did you pay for that information? No,
No.
no. They're trying to get you to think. Now, if you want to sit down one-on-one with them and have them plan out your life a little bit, they're
Yeah.
probably going to
Well,
charge you, and that's okay. But so yeah, I like helping people, just getting them involved, getting
yeah.
them into cryptos, and maybe not just into cryptos. Maybe they don't want to do that, but getting them to think about their financial life, where it's at now. Like you said, there's a problem over here. So start looking for a solution, all that good stuff. Yep. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Me too, brother. Me too. I hear you. Yeah. I mean, I try to talk to people probably sometimes a little bit too long whenever they ask.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I think we're all excited. We're all taking this journey, this trip together. And I mean, I couldn't be more excited. I'm hoping to get more stuff going on my end soon. I just moved a little over a month ago from a camper into a actual home. And we still got some stuff to do and getting ready, and with everything else going on, I need to kind of see how it's going to be playing out. But I'm hoping to soon also be able to help people, and maybe start a YouTube channel, be able to do stuff, and just do small things and get my name out there, and just to help people. Because like you said, paying for help, sometimes people say, oh, it should be free. Well, yeah, but you understand, Mike Maloney, he talked about those hidden secrets of money cost, close to $100,000 each to produce and to make, the flights they had to make, and being shut down a museum or something so they could go in and film. And like you said, it was all free on YouTube. And so, but to be able to sit down one-on-one with somebody, hey, time's money. If you go to college, you're going to have to pay that professor. Why? Because that professor does that for a job. He's got bills. Whenever you go, whenever you go and you need medical advice, or you're sick or something, you go pay that doctor. Why? Because when they educated themselves, they took the time, they have the student loans, they got to pay for their house, they got to pay for their cars, they feed their family, right? And so to pay for somebody's time, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's so much wealth of information out there for free that you could get in and really figure out. And then when it was time to sit down one-on-one, okay, I want somebody to help me set up an exchange account or a wallet. I wanted somebody to send my first transaction to figure it out.
Exactly.
Because you know what, 50, $100, $200 to make sure I do it right might turn into a whole lot more money in the future. But if I lose it, then it's gone forever.
Exactly.
So it's well worth it to me, because back then it would have been well worth it. The amount of money I lost, sure wish I had it back,
Oh yeah.
So,
I do know. I have my own personal horror stories where it's just, nope, there it is. I can still see it. I can still see it on the ledger, but it's not in this wallet.
Yep. I missed one thing, and so yeah, just helping people, making sure they do it right, taking the kind of the ownership of it, and realizing, hey, you need to keep the stuff safe. It's not, you can't just call up and say, hey, I screwed up, can you send my money back? We're not at that point. We might eventually get to that point with technology and everything growing. We might get to that point. But right now, if you send something and you screwed up, there's not really much you can do to get it back. And if you get scammed and you give somebody those private keys, they're going to steal all your money, and it's going to be pretty anonymous. It's going to be real hard to track them down. And if, God forbid, you had those private keys in your house and your house burnt down, you didn't have a spare copy.
Yep.
You could have just lost all that money. That's why I try to encourage people to keep 2 or 3 copies in 2 or 3 different places. So if something were to happen at one, you have a backup, and you have a backup to that backup. There's nothing wrong with that. Write them down on paper. Don't take a screenshot and let it go save to iCloud or whatever.
Right.
And in paper, and put it, in a fireproof box, buried in the backyard. I mean, make sure you dig it up when you move.
Get a tattoo on your forearm, something, anything. Just don't leave it in the damn house.
Yeah. But yeah, and like I said, I mean, little things like that, little tips that people probably wouldn't think about, but houses burn down every day, and those are things that people need to think about, because getting in right now, I feel like, in 5-10 years, you're going to be really, really glad you did. But if you didn't take the time to protect and understand, you're going to be really mad that you didn't,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
You're right. No, we typically don't think like that, or, moreover, we don't think about risk mitigation. John J. Singleton talks about that a lot. He wants to mitigate the risk. Like that's his goal. He doesn't talk about it when he's talking to you about what he does and what he can do and etc. But that's his underlying big goal: risk mitigation. You start thinking that way, where's the risk at? How can I mitigate it? How can I mitigate the mitigate? Because you can always improve on, I don't know about you, but safety is very harped on at my job in construction.
Oh,
And they're always talking about every accident is preventable and such and such. And if you really start to think about past situations where an incident happened, it's like, yep, 2 or 3 seconds right here, 5 minutes over there, none of this would have happened. Zero.
yeah,
Same thing.
yeah,
Apply that to all aspects of your life.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, my job is probably just as bad, if not worse. So I understand that, and the 8.5, almost, I guess, well, April will be 9 years, but they have really changed the way I think about stuff, especially now having kids and I'm outside using the weed eater or the chainsaw. I got to make sure that
Yeah, safety glasses,
un-
gloves, yep,
yeah, that he's
mask,
safe,
yeah, oh yeah,
everything. Yeah. And
yep.
so you need to think about all aspects like that, because your job is keeping you safe because you're an income to provide for your family. But if you use that income to buy an asset and you don't protect that, then you basically throwing that money away and it's not going to benefit your family. So you need to take just as much interest in protecting those. And like you said, mitigating that risk. And I'm glad you brought up John Jay, because he's somebody that I really fall back on. He's not necessarily into the like crypto and stuff like that. He's more into mitigating that risk, which is what I would like to get into. But yeah, starting LLCs, getting that arm's reach away from your assets, because you might be able to manage them, but you don't own them. The LLC does. You don't have that risk if somebody were to come after you. And at the end of the day, if you have all this wealth, but it's all owned by you, you basically just painted a target on your back. You move that to an LLC or a structure that you control and you manage, but you don't necessarily, it's not you personally, then it can take a big burden off. An example he uses is like a bookkeeper at a church. Okay. They might write the checks for the bills, the electric bill and stuff like that. They might move money in around in the accounts because they have access, but they don't own the church, right? Now, if they did something and they were stealing the church's money, that's different. But if somebody were to come after the church, well, hey, I'm just the bookkeeper. I just manage the books. I just pay the bills. It's not me that you're coming after. And when you have an entity like that, it's a little bit different situation. If God forbid somebody come after you, and so you need to be able to protect that. All this stuff we're talking about, taking loans, roll it into different assets. Take it a step further. Those assets need to be owned by an LLC. They don't need to be owned by you personally. Even if you're paying off personal debt, there's ways to do that. Like you're using the money you're making from the rental property to pay your mortgage. There's right and wrong ways to do that to make sure that you're protected, and not just from a legal standpoint, but making sure you're not getting killed in taxes. You want to stay net positive. You don't want to make an extra $300 a month, but then pay $600 a month in taxes on it.
Right.
So, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And, I don't want to bore people or scare them or, make their heads explode, but that's part of getting in that right mindset. And that's something that, a lot of people need to get to if they're really going to take this step, because like I said, in 5-10 years, I think they're going to be really, really happy that they did, hopefully. That's just my opinion. It's not legal or financial advice, but, I see a lot of development and really good things going on. And I think when other people see that, they're going to want to be a part of it as well,
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. They're totally going to be wanting to be anybody and everybody is definitely going to want their lives to be vastly improved, not just from a financial standpoint, a multitude of standpoints, but you can't do that if you don't try to mitigate the risk. And I'm glad you actually touched on briefly on, the information that we intake, not just with cryptos, but the structure or the multitude of structures you talked about. If you're a net positive 300, but then you have to pay taxes and that's 600, well, now you're negative 300 in the hole, right?
Right.
As boring as that subject is, it is extremely important to know the math. You have to know, I can't, in this specific situation, I can't turn left because it means this. I either must go straight or right. And I can't stop because, of other reasons. It's kind of the same thing. You have to know when is a good time to turn right. When is a good time to keep going straight? Is left even an option right now? You have to know those. It's like driver's ed. Driver's ed, look, driver's ed was boring. I mean, when we were driving the car, that was cool. But reading the book, watching the videos, and it was just like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So, yeah. At least it was for me, painstaking back in my day, which was a long time ago. But nonetheless, it was boring. But I had to know. I had to know all that. Can I do this? Double yellow, hash yellow, etc. Blah 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 blah. Same thing. Yeah. Only just a different arena.
It is, yeah, and it's just as important. If you want to, well, for me, it's important because I try to take it as serious as I can, and not to make anyone feel bad. It's just that's what I do. And so if somebody wanted to work with me, then I'm going to take it just as serious. That's your money that you're doing. I mean, sometimes I might even take it more serious than my own, just because now that's somebody else. That could be a whole family or a whole generation that I could hurt if I don't teach them the proper way or make sure that they're mitigating that risk and taking the right steps to protect their assets, And so, it means a lot because I know that I'm going to have food on the table regardless of what I do, but somebody else might not be in the same situation and they need it, or they got to do this or that. And, there might be a lot riding on it. And so, I take a lot of responsibility if I'm working with somebody to make sure that they understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. And if I don't feel capable of doing it, I'm going to help them find somebody that can. I don't have to be the sole only person somebody works with. John Jay knows a whole lot more than I do. And I only know what I know from listening to him and a few others. But if you're to the point where you need somebody like that, hey, I'm going to recommend you go talk to him, because this is out of my league. And I'm not going to lie to you, or I'm not going to, shoot you in the wrong direction. And, sometimes people, it's hard to swallow that and to say, I don't know. But if you don't know, man, you don't know.
Right.
Somebody
it's okay. Go find somebody that does, and then learn about it too. Might as well, since you're going to the classroom, might as well sit down.
Exactly. So, but anyways, I mean, that's kind of in a sense of where I see everything going and hopefully how I can help get there. So
perfect, man. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you're in the space, man. You are a very young, knowledged individual, man. I love it when you come into our weekly Zoomers, man. It's funny. I see some of the other members that we have there. Oh, Mathew's here.
Really?
Oh yeah, they get excited.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, usually you're on your phone, right? I know you're dealing with family and all that, and I don't want to get too personal on this video, but yeah, there's a couple. It's like, that actually when you're not there, they're like, oh yeah, you need to talk to Mathew. When Mathew comes on, he explains it very well, et cetera, et cetera. So, really? so my man, you are on the right track. You're very impressive, nonetheless, and I'm grateful for you to come on the show today. Is there anything else you want to put out there for just the general public to know?
No, I think that's it. On Telegram, you can hit me up. I'm actually under Scout because back when I got involved, like I said, I wanted to be anonymous. There was so many scams out there, so I just used my name, Scout. But yeah, hit me up, and I'd love to come back on sometime and maybe talk about projects, or once we get a little bit more into Nexo, use it a little bit more, we can talk about that. I'd love to come back and just talk back and forth and shoot the what. And
yeah, exactly. All right, well, perfect. We'll definitely have you on the show, and I'll put a link in the description box down below for everybody for your Telegram, so they can hit you up. So, but you might want to warn the wife that I'm going to do that, so that way she's aware that's why your phone's blowing up. All right.
I know, right?
Yeah, you got to tell the wife. Happy wife, happy life. All right, well, that's all we got for you crazy crypto kids out there in crypto land. Once again, just remember, be safe out there. Do your own research. Really, really do it. I know you don't want to, but do some, because we're just two guys talking here. This is not financial advice at all. It's knowledge. It's education. And good information. But we could be two crackpots. So you might want to do some homework, ladies and gentlemen. But anyways, like I said, that's all we got for you crazy kids out there in crypto land. My name is Simon Says Crypto. It's your world, so rock it.